I think feel like I'm about 2/3 of the way, 3/4 of the way through it. Had quite a big chunk of play the other night. Oh, it's so good. It's really good, and it's another game that is just so unlike anything else you've ever played because it can only be possible in VR. Trying to explain this to people, I've been trying to think about this and almost sort of panicking. So, like, how on earth are we going to explain this on a podcast? You can kind of record your movements. You're in this giant tree, and you can swap out the rooms in the tree. And each room, you have to basically build a mechanism to get plants from A to B. You're sort of harvesting plants and getting them to one end of the room to the other, and you can record your movements, and then they get represented as a little clockwork robot. So you record yourself, and the first time you'll harvest the seed, and then you can pass it on to the next one, and then you can move your body to stand in the next place and next break part of the chain, and record yourself receiving the item and then passing it on again and doing it that way. And so the complexity of what you have to do, I've just made it very basic there, but the complexity of what you have to do in each room gets more and more complex, how you can do it. And it's a real puzzle game to work out how you can record your movements in a way to make this chain, to make this intricate mechanism. You are creating like a clock of different moving parts that all have to interlink and work together. And once you've done it and you stand back and you just watch a dozen robots all in the room, all carrying out your movements and connecting together, and you see the seeds they're harvesting making their way through the mechanism. It's so satisfying. It's so good, and you're using your body to solve the puzzles, and it's unlike anything else I've ever played.
I think, yeah, satisfying is the word. I haven't played quite as much as you have, but it's really nice to just. You feel like my thing with games. Ultimately, I think I'm always striving for as much automation as possible. So, like in something like Elden Ring, I was like, right, what's the most powerful spell I could possibly find that will basically just destroy everything in front of me so I don't have to fight? Great, find that. Vampire Survivors last year. Powering up to the point where you can just stand still and just kill the swarms of enemies that are coming at you constantly.
Yeah.
Brilliant. This game is all about that, but even more depth and being even more clever. Just that whole... Yeah, it's about automation, right? It's I just love that mechanic. I wasn't sure what to expect when I jumped into it for the first time, because I thought, this looks like it could be frustrating, but it's actually not at all, because it's quite chill. Like it's got a nice atmosphere to it, very relaxing music. It doesn't feel remotely stressful. It doesn't feel like there's any real failure states. It's just, here's a room. You know what your powers are. Very simple controls. It's teleportation rather than sort of direct movement as well, which is nice. So there's no real friction to it other than that initial being plonked into a room, and then you're like, it doesn't really explain what you're supposed to do. But that only took me a couple of seconds to just try some things out.
And if you place a robot that it doesn't work for you, you just tap it on the head and it disappears. You delete it, so you can try again with something else. So it just encourages you to experiment, try different things. And I started off, when I go back to the early starting rooms in the tree, I've done it in such an overworked, stupid way that when I look back at it now, I think, oh God, I was such an idiot then. Because now, a dozen or so rooms in, I'm much more. I get it much more, and so actually you can just pick the seed and then just launch it in the air, and then you can just move to the other side of the room and then record yourself catching it and then launching it on. So you can just cut out the breaks in the chain in a way that.
Spoilers, Lottie.
No, it's not spoilers. Anyone cleverer than me would have worked that out.
I wouldn't have figured it out anyway.
Right at the start. It's more like Breath of the Wild, where you learn these mechanics, and when they click, it's all there from the start. It's just your knowledge and experience, and your interacting with things and how you see things just grows and develops over time.
It is one of them where I'm thinking about it now that I've put it down. Like it's and I'm thinking, actually, because as I said, I'm quite early on, so I was just doing, passing the seed from one hand to the other. And then it was only afterwards where I think I was like in the shower, and I was like, do you know what? The robot's got two hands. I could be taking two scenes at a time, and like that, and just thinking that I'm using half of the robot's capacity. This is ridiculous.
And that's all about how you then get those. I mean, a lot of the trophies for the game, not that I've looked, come from getting that maximum capacity in every level. So you've got your board, and it says like do 100 seeds a second or a minute or however it is, but using a maximum of 7 robots and stuff like that. So it's working out like that's the added level of it. So you've got the level of, right, I just need to know what I need to do to progress here, and then I was like, I need to know how to be a rock star at this. Like, come on, like how do we get this going like clockwork? Literally that production line perfect, which is just another level to the game. Because it's kind of, as you said, the only frustration I had with it was at the very, very beginning when I'm like, right, okay, what am I actually doing here? Because I missed the bit at the start where you had to put the chain together, like the very first puzzle, as you came in the door, and I'm like, I have no idea how I progress here at all. And then after that, I'm like, oh, and then I think I moved too many stages too quickly because you had opened up so many bits on the globe. And I think I missed bits, so I need to go back because I'm like, I don't know what to do with that. That's fine. So
I do agree. The intro, I think the tutorial was a bit confusing for me, and I started this game and I was quite tired, which is never a good game. I should never start a game when I'm tired because it just confused me, and I didn't think I was doing. But then I restarted it the second time. It was obvious. So if people start this game and it doesn't quite click for them to start off with, then just try again or just persevere, and it all becomes when the mechanic clicks, it really clicks.
Yeah, definitely. And I should say it seems to be delivering quite a nice story as well, in the way that we mistakenly mentioned Firewatch earlier. It does remind me a little bit of that. You're sort of talking to someone on a radio, you're playing audio clips as you go throughout it, and it's delivering this story in quite a nice organic way.
Just why are there cassette recorders? This stupid thing that games do, like who records themselves on a cassette, conversations and stuff, and then leaving. Normal people would just own one cassette recorder and have lots of cassettes.
Who would sit and record a conversation for the hope that someone else will listen to it? It's ridiculous.
I ask you.
What an idiot.
But it's the tape recorders. Like, this is set in some distant planet. This is kind of sci-fi type-esque fantasy setting. Yeah. You create a mechanic that's not a bloody tape recorder. Just make it like some sort of memory crystal or something. I don't know.
It's when you're starting at the very beginning, you're coming out with this little spaceship, and you're like, oh, and then you're like, oh, I'm in a tree. It just felt like a complete juxtaposition. I like it.
No, I'm being silly. That's a perfectly just accepted gameplay mechanic. It's just shorthand for audio diary.
Yeah, I really like the presentation of it. I'm quite
I do.
I was worried it was going to be a bit sort of twee, and that would put me off, but it hit just the right level. And even some of I think the voice acting seems really good. Mm-hmm. The lines are being delivered really nicely, so it's
so for those that care about story without spoiling anything, and I'm not sure I can spoil it because I think it all needs to be revealed at the end. You are playing as a woman that returns to the tree, the clock tower. Clock tower, and the audio diaries you hear are between her and her mentor, going back. So she's reliving kind of her childhood, basically growing up on this in this site, and she's just learning about her mentor, who was the last Clockwinder, or so we're to believe. That's it, and it is interesting, and it is just through the dialogue just being given through these audio diaries. There is a lot of depth to it. The acting is really well done. It's really interesting, and you just get little snippets of conversation, and it's jumping through time forwards and backwards. It's interesting as you learn more of it as you go through the different levels. It's always nice when you get into a new room, you look for the tape recorder, you think, oh, I want the next bit of story. You're looking for that, and then you look for the keys, which you find the keys to the next rooms in each room. So it's very well done.
Feels like a special one, doesn't it? I think it's I'm glad we've all got around to playing it.
It's one of those ones that's like it's one of those ones that's like nothing you've ever played before. Well, certainly nothing I've ever played before. You said only in VR, but even I've never even played anything that attempts to be like this. It's just very, very unique, which is always good.
And in terms of our different scales, I mean, I didn't have any motion sickness at all from this. I think it's the teleportation helps. So it's good on that front. It's quite chill. I think you can play it sitting down, but I would struggle. Like by the time I'd finished, I was like bumping into my table that was behind me, because I think you're like looking around the room, turning around to reach stuff. So I don't think you can really. I don't think it's a good one for sitting down and playing. Don't know about you guys.
No, I think you need to be up and about.
Standing up.
Yeah,
and also it is kind of one that works on a room scale. It seems a bit easier because as a robot, it's easier to record your movements if you've got more space to move around. True. You can got a bit more range. You can move that robot because you can change the setting of how long a recording you make, whether it's a 1 second or a 4 second. Obviously, if it's a 4 second recording, that does give you quite a lot of scope to peg it across the room, but you can only do that in real. You can't just teleport across the room. You have to move in physical the room you're in. So it does. The more space you have, it does make it a bit easier.
I think we need to add in another scale by, like, how much of a tit do you look if your wife walks in or your husband walks in and sees you playing this game? Because I think this is quite high on that.
And my husband thinks I look like a tit anyway. So
even without the VR, yeah, that's true.
The more you get me to make thumbnails, the more close I get to being divorced. So
you said that my wife watched me play this game, and she really liked this. She really liked the kind of puzzle element of it. I think this is the sort of game that she's never going to play it, but if she were going to play a game, this is the sort of thing that she would be into. She liked the whole intricacy of the puzzle solution that you have to build.
It's a good.
So, yeah,
and that's where I think that's where the wow factor comes in this. It's not stunning to look at. It's very pleasant. But I think the wow is when you set that automation and then see the robot doing it and it actually pulls off what you were trying to do. I think that's that's some clever shit.
Yeah, you almost stand in awe watching it. You're like, oh, I did that.
Yeah, definitely.
And so this game is $19.99 on the PlayStation Store, and I believe it's currently on offer at the moment until the 22nd of June. It's got a double discount on it, so it's £16 for everyone, and then if you've got PS Plus, it's down to £14, I believe. So yeah, if you are listening to this now, it seems like a good £14 seems like a great price for this game, if you ask me.
And How Long to Beat's got it at 5.5 hours to finish, which is a pretty nice length for a VR game, I think.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, so definite stamp of approval from me so far.
100%.